Well, hello. My name is Mike Bowers. I'm with the Ohio Small Business Development Center at Columbus State Community College. We are excited for another edition of the Small Business Breakthroughs program. This is a great program where we bring in experts to talk about a variety of different business issues, and hopefully we're able to provide you some really good real world advice that can help your business really right away. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. Before we start, I want to introduce our partner in this particular program. This is the being done in conjunction with the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center, or the DEC. And I want to introduce Chaz Frutel, who is the manager of the DEC, and kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that they have for entrepreneurs.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate the opportunity to once again to partner with small business development centers, and Bruce in the background taking care of all the connections and whatnot today. But the DEC's very excited to offer all kinds of programming, and SBDC is just one of our partners in that effort. We also have monthly events, or at least every other month events, with Rev 1 Ventures as well. But you can find all of our events, if you're interested, on our website at decindublin.com. So it's DEC in Dublin.com. But the DEC is now celebrating over 12 years of service to Central Ohio and serving the small business community. We host approximately 150 businesses on site and helping them to get started and grow. Always excited to hear of a DEC tenant that is graduating, and I got a note from one of those today that's moving on, growing into larger space, and moving out of the DEC and putting their big boy pants on, I like to say. But so excited for that particular company, and we had two new ones that joined us this month as well. So we're always excited to get new businesses in to help, as well as see older ones that have been around for a while to graduate. But if anybody's interested in coming and seeking some meeting with some of our various partners, whether it's legal or accounting or banking or insurance or whatever, that are happy to help you. We also have space for those businesses that want to come and have access to their own facility, as inexpensively as $90 a month and up, depending on what type of space or access that you have. So just excited again to hear Deonna's presentation today, and look forward to communicating with any of you that are interested. Thank you, Mike.
Sure thing. Thanks, Chaz. And we always appreciate the opportunity to work with the DEC. And, as usual, when we do this program, I am actually at the DEC, broadcasting from here. We have a space here that we work with entrepreneurs, both tenants and others. And while Chaz was speaking, I actually had a tenant knock on the door and wanted to talk about getting together to speak about their business. So it's a great facility. And even if you don't know that you're quite ready for space, they have a lot of different services, and it's definitely someplace that I would encourage you to check out. So without any further ado, we're going to move into the featured presentation with our esteemed expert, right, Deonna? So nice. We're going to have Deonna Barnet, who is the CEO and managing consultant of Aventi Enterprises. We have had the privilege of working with Deonna probably for the last year and a half, and her and her team have done really great work with a lot of the small businesses here in Central Ohio that we work with. We had a program that we did with focused on existing businesses that were impacted by COVID-19, and Deonna and her team were instrumental in serving those businesses, and we really appreciate everything that she's done. I do want to say before we jump in, if any of the attendees have a question, go ahead and throw it into the chat. Bruce Walters, who's part of our team, and myself will be monitoring that. If you have questions, go ahead and put those in. And if you'd like to kind of introduce yourself in the chat, we would love to have you do that too. So Deonna, thanks for participating and being here today. We're excited for the opportunity to hear from you. And what I'd like to do is kind of have you start off, talk a little bit about your background and Aventi and some of the things that you can provide to entrepreneurs and small business owners.
Sure, thank you. Thanks, Mike, for having me. Thank you to Chaz and the deck for supporting a series like this. Again, my name is Deonna Barnet, and I am the CEO and managing consultant of Aventi Enterprises. We are a small business consulting firm here in Columbus, Ohio, helping to transform entrepreneurs into high growth CEOs. And we do that by way of business planning and strategy, preparation for funding and financing, government contracting, and some small business outreach. So we focus a lot on women and minority owners because they are a disadvantaged population. So we then look for additional resources and really provide as much advising and support and advocacy for these population groups. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thank you for participating. So I want to jump in. I know that you guys do a lot of work in assisting entrepreneurs, really from, I think, the startup phase into existing businesses. Now, this particular program is focused on existing businesses, but I want to talk a little bit about, start out with business planning and kind of get your thoughts, because I know that you guys do a lot of work, both individually and with training to entrepreneurs. And I guess, first of all, what are your thoughts? I mean, why should a business have a business plan?
So that business plan is really your roadmap to accomplishing the goals that you set forth in your business. It's not only for funding, because generally people think if I want to get funding, then I need to get my business plan. But really, you should have your business plan for you, for yourself, to guide you through this process of accomplishing the goals that you set for yourself. So I started businesses with a business plan and without. And I can tell you that the business that I did start with a business plan is going very well, very, very well. The first company I started was a residential cleaning service. I did not have a business plan. I did not have the experience of cleaning other people's house. Long story short, I lost money. I realized that I wasn't even in the right business, and there wasn't enough market research. I did learn, that there were certain customers that I just could not serve. And you learn these things when you write your business plan. So I really do encourage business owners, whether you're just getting ready to start, or if you're in business and you've never written your business plan, write your business plan. It's going to save you a lot of headaches and potentially save you money so you don't lose any of it.
So to take that a step further, so I think that one of the things that we saw in 2020 with the pandemic and the changes and the shifts in the economic environment, and a lot of people, a lot of businesses, market environment. I mean, you mentioned market research and things of that nature. I mean, what do you see business owners who were in business prior to 2020, or even, early part of 2020? They had a business plan and, things have kind of shifted. And let's say now they haven't updated it. I mean, what would you recommend to them to do to refresh that plan? Because if you've got a plan for 2016, 17, 18, 19, or whatever, 2021, that plan may be somewhat useless.
Right. I would say the first thing that you need to do is assess the market and understand your customers' needs, because as your customers' needs change, then they're going to start looking for solutions for those needs. So as long as it's still within your industry, there's an opportunity for you to pivot. That was the big word for 2020, pivot, to make sure that you are satisfying the current needs of the market. And the only way for you to do that is to talk to your customers and to understand what are their challenges right now, what are their top concerns, and where is your business? Where can you find your company in that place to provide them a solution for some of their problems and satisfying their current needs? So assessing the market for sure. And then reviewing your financials. Do you have the financial capability to provide that solution? And if you don't, what are some ways that you can modify your finances to provide that solution? What other resources can you leverage to provide that solution? I would definitely say review your operating budget. Understand if you were profitable before all of this happened, and if you weren't, it doesn't matter because everything's new now. So understanding your current operating budget, what things have changed, what worked, what did not work, and how can you modify your financial budget so that you put yourself in the black for the most part. Your cash flow position, is it positive? Is it negative? And just because you have a positive cash position right now doesn't necessarily mean that you're a profitable business. You can have cash in the bank, but you could be losing money with your business month by month. So understanding, are you in that position? A lot of people got grants and loans, COVID relief funding. And so they're right now in a really high cash position, but that doesn't mean that their business is profitable. So use that money wisely, put yourself in a profitable position by understanding, where your break-even point is and what sales do you need to accomplish to maintain that profitability. And that way you can leverage the cash that you have that maybe you got from COVID relief funding and have it stay in the bank longer by ensuring that you are in a profitable position.
That's a great point about the cash position and some of the COVID relief funding that was available. Mm-hmm. And there still is some, of that available. But that's a really great point in terms of having that, using that so that you can really reassess where you need to be.
Yeah.
And if you need to pivot, it's easy to say, I'm going to pivot. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's even easy to say, okay, well, I'm going to do some updating my business plan. I'm going to do some research, and now I'm going to pivot. But a lot of times that's going to take additional money. It's sometimes the business is dramatically changing.
Yeah.
And, it's really important to really have the cash to be able to do that, because launching into it without, really thinking about that piece, even if you have a lot of the other pieces thought through, could be a recipe for disaster.
Yes, I'd agree. And then there are some who did receive the cash, but they didn't do anything with their business, like for months, which put them in a really dangerous place. So having the cash is really important. If you got access to COVID relief funding, congratulations, use that money to the best of your ability to leverage growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw a number of businesses, and I know that you saw it too, where they kind of got into a mode that their business model was just chasing these grants.
And yes,
they kind of got away from the business part, chasing, this 10,000 or this 20 or 50. And, as these funds start to dry up a little bit, their business, now they got to go back and look at their business, and they're not sure where they are.
Yeah, they chased the money, but they didn't change anything in their business. Yeah. And they really need to do both at the same time.
Yeah. So, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, so along that line, I want to talk just a touch about funding. So you've got your business plan, you've made the needed adjustments, or, you've created it for the first time. Hopefully that's not the case, but, how do you see the business plan working into funding? Because, I mean, you mentioned it. I mean, a lot of people think, okay, business plan funding, but what do you really think? What do you think you really need in that plan to get it to speak to the funding source, to the bank or whatever, to really get them to, understand what you're doing?
So the bank wants to, be sure that you are in a place to repay them their money. Pretty much. They want to make sure that your business will make enough money to cover your bills and to pay them back. And they can see that through the numbers that you present, your projections. Your numbers have to be realistic. I mean, bankers or funders, they know what's realistic and what's not. So if you haven't started your business and you say year one, I'm going to make $1 million, well, they're going to critique your business plan like no other and say, how is that going to be possible? So they look at your numbers and then they look at the rest of the plan to see how your story, how your plans are supporting those numbers. I have noticed that some business owners, they create their projections, but when they write the other components of their plan, that content does not match those numbers. And so everything goes together. It has to speak to each other within that plan. And so those funders really are looking to ensure that you can pay them their money back. Like your cash flow projections, the big omission to that is the loan repayment. Some businesses don't put the loan repayment in there, and that doesn't make the funders feel very warm and fuzzy that you haven't even considered paying them back. So things like that are really important when you approach a funder with your business plan. And then once you get the funds, that plan should you may have to adjust every now and then, and you're expected to, because a business plan is a livable document, meaning things change and it's expected to change as well. But that business plan is to help you step by step make moves and actions that can secure that funder's investment or financing that they provided you. So once the business plan is approved by the funder, that's not the end all be all. You work that plan and you make changes as needed to ensure that that funder gets their money back.
That's a great point, because I've seen people that write the plan for the bank this is what they think the bank needs or the bank wants to hear so that it can give funding. But the bank really is counting on you to do what you say in that plan.
Yes.
To execute so that you can make money and you can pay them back. That's based on what they're doing. And, if you get a loan, let's say it's a multi-year loan or whatever, the bank is going to want to connect with you every year and see what you're doing. They want to see your finances and stuff. And if you're going down a completely different path, they're not going to be as excited about that. If you're paying them and everything's going well, that's probably going to be okay. But if the economy's starting to go south or something like that, and they meet with you and they see that you're not even doing what they want, that again could be, could end up getting that loan called.
Yeah.
Which would be a problem.
Yeah. Calling the loan means I want my money back now. That's what that means. So you don't want the bank or the funder to call your loan.
Absolutely.
So great point.
And you brought up another great point too, that I've seen in the past where, people will work on the financials, and I always kind of like to get people to work on the financials first. Now that's got to be based on reality. It's got to be based on market assessments and things of that nature. And then I like the narrative to kind of speak to the financials. So that whole package can speak for you when you're not there, because, you're not going to speak to every person in the loan approval process.
Right.
And it needs to speak for you. But I've seen it also where they've worked the financials and maybe had their financial person or somebody write that financial for you. And then somebody else kind of writes the narrative, and it's, the flowery and beautiful narrative. It doesn't speak to the financials. So it's almost looks like it's two businesses, which, again, that's not going to get you funded.
Right. Absolutely. So you really got it. I agree. I have people do the financials first. The show me the money is the term that I use when we get ready to start. Let's look at the money first. We look at the money and then we explain the numbers throughout the plan. That's essentially what all those other sections are of the business plan. It's an explanation of those numbers in the back.
Right, absolutely. So we do have a question. Nancy Butler has asked, is there a platform that you prefer for writing a business plan? Bruce put in the chat about Dream Builder. I
Mhm.
know we use that with some of our clients. What are your thoughts on kind of platforms or tools to do this?
I know another popular one is Live Plan. A lot of people use Live Plan. You just got to know like what sections that you want. Live Plan gives you a template. It's pretty extensive. Everyone doesn't need that full template, but you have the ability to adjust that template as you wish. So Live Plan, they give you examples of what could go in each section and give you some examples and some example business plans. So I like Live Plan. If you work with a consultant with Live Plan, that tends to be a little easier, facilitate that process, and your consultant then can collaborate with you on the plan so you guys can work on it together, or you can have other team members work with you on the plan together. I'm not sure how Dream Builder works, but Live Plan works pretty well too.
Yeah, absolutely. We've used Live Plan in different things that we've done too. And we have a couple of different tools that we use kind of within that context. So the Live Plan and the Dream Builder, I mean, they lay it out pretty well, and they kind of ask the questions and you fill in the questions. But we have some other tools that we use. We use Growth Wheel, which is kind of a holistic, review of your business in a variety of different areas. We use some different market research tools, and these tools really aren't the business plan tool, but they're the prep for the business plan tool.
Yeah.
Because I've seen, again, I'm sure you've seen the same thing. I mean, too many people come in and they get these templates, and the templates are really cool because they're just, let's fill in the questions, it's fill in the box, right? But if you haven't done the work, then you're just filling in the box with your ideas. And while that's good, it's not great in terms of creating a business that's going to be customer and market focused.
And specific to your business, actually, we don't use a tool. We write our business plans from scratch. And that's because I think the reason we do that is because it's adding a tool or software that you have to learn how to use adds a little bit more learning to the learning process. And so if a client already has Live Plan, you're familiar with it, yes, great, let's jump in. But for the most part, we just have everyone write their business plan from scratch and give them instructions on how to write their business plan section by section. That works too. Just a plain old Word document. So you don't necessarily have to have a tool or software, but if you feel comfortable using those, you definitely can.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because one of the things that I like to talk to people too about, especially in our startup class that we do and things, is that you've got to create a plan for you.
Yeah.
That you can work, and you can use a template, and that's fine. You can start to do it in Word. You can do it on a thing, pad of paper, if that works for you. And can you elaborate a little bit more? I know I'm not going to say I want you to elaborate on your failure without a plan, but kind of shift back, because
Okay.
Nancy asked a follow-up question to the platform question, and we mentioned this earlier, but I don't think we went into it very deeply about having a business plan, even if you're not needing money right now. So really, it's using that plan to operate your business.
Right. It really is. And you got to know where you're going with all of this. And that business plan really helps you to clarify your thoughts. Typically, entrepreneurs, we're creative people. We're always thinking of the new, thinking of the next. And our minds can get really cluttered doing all of that thinking. And that business plan keeps your thoughts a little bit more focused. So you may have 5 or 6 different business concepts and ideas, and I want to put it all in one. It's not going to work that well. And you'll see that in your business plan that, things are really muddy. And then when you start to dissect and to compress and to remove and adjust, you can see the simplicity of your business and how you can make it, your processes repeatable. And then it makes it a little bit easier to hire people. So that business plan is really for you to clarify your thoughts and ideas and to understand what exactly is this business? What is this? And what do I need to do to accomplish the goals that I set forth in this business? Goals are really, really important because you can work all day and not strive for really anything. But if you have those goals, then it forces you to figure out how to accomplish them. And now you're really, really focused on accomplishing those goals. And the business plan is, again, the rest of the plan supports the actions needed to accomplish those goals. So the business plan is for you to get from point A to point B to point C, so on and so forth.
Yeah. A lot of times I don't like, especially when I'm speaking to kind of earlier stage entrepreneurs, I don't like to use the term business plan because I think sometimes they get intimidated by that, or they think it's all template based and things of that nature. And a lot of times I try to use more of a operating plan term, so you can build it for you and build it for your business. And what you said is exactly right. I mean, I always like to say you've got to be able to execute.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a plan, you don't have anything to execute around.
Right.
You're just kind of winging it at that point. And that gets really tough when there's a lot of stuff coming at you. You don't have anything to refer back to.
I'd agree. And again, your business plan is a livable document. I think I have reviewed my plan many times. At the end of last year, I was able to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we can do it given our circumstances. But 2020 was a time where it's like, okay, let's try this. Okay, that's not going to work. That's not working. That is not the time to do this. So it's okay if you have to change or modify your business plan. But that is something you should be looking at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year, if not monthly, to make sure that you are doing what you say you're going to do.
So today is October 28th. What do you recommend people be doing to get prepped for 2022? I mean, it's late in the year.
Yeah.
So it's actually a good time to start doing that review.
I would review your company goals. If you have any, if you don't have any, set your goals. What do you want to accomplish in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months? Next year, what do you want to accomplish? Where do you see yourself next year? And then create an action plan towards those goals. I encourage people to choose a minimum of 3 goals to work toward, and then create an action plan for each goal. So if you're not started and your goal is to launch, or this is for existing businesses. So if you plan on launching a new service, set the date. When do you plan to launch that new service? What will it take to launch that new service? What resources do you need to launch that service? So on and so forth. Create your action plan to accomplish that goal. 3 to 5 goals is good, minimum of 3 if 5 is too much. So spend some time thinking about where you want to go with this. Oh, one other thing, I will say something else. We spend a lot of time on business model design, and a lot of businesses had to modify their business model last year. And if you have not gone through that design process, I encourage you to do that too for next year and figure out how your company is going to operate in this new market, how it's going to operate, and what are your revenue streams, how you're going to make money. And then maybe that can guide you more toward what your goal should be. And then you can write a business plan to support that new model or adjusted model.
So you said something that I thought was interesting. So I understand business model design. You get it. We have a business background. When you talk to individuals that are in business or starting business that don't have a lot of business background, you mentioned, working with women and minority businesses and things like that do you see that some of the terms, you have to be careful with the terms so you don't intimidate them or, scare them off?
I generally have to explain the terms because I think the terms are important. They should know what they are because other people are going to use them. And when other people use them, I don't want them to be intimidated. So as an educator and consultant, I try to tell them what the terms are. So when they hear it from me, they're a little bit more comfortable asking the question, what is that? And I can explain to them so that they're not intimidated when someone else asks them and they feel like, oh, I should know what that is, but I don't. So I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
So, and I'll clarify business model and business plan. So the business model is this framework, not very many details, but this framework of how your company is going to operate, make money, and deliver value to your customers. Big picture thinking. And then your business plan is the details, how you're going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great. And I like the term, educator, because that's really what, business people at every level really need to continue to raise their knowledge level. And especially if you're talking to early stage businesses or folks that, really don't have a lot of business background, they need to understand what's going on. We do a lot of that to kind of raise their education and their knowledge level. So we're all talking about the same thing when we're talking. And I really like what you said there. Got another question. Ty Collier is asking, as a new startup with a small spending budget, are there any recommendations for affordable business plan coaching? So what are your thoughts? Obviously, you guys do that.
Looks like she just, Deonna was dropped. She's rejoining.
Okay. Well, while she's rejoining, I will mention that obviously the Small Business Development Center, what we do business advising. That business advising is free of charge to the user. We do a lot of work with folks that are wanting to put together plans. We have some, I think, really great business plan trainings. So if you go to our website, which is sbdccolumbus.com, you can see all of our events and different things of that nature. And I think that, that's a great source. SCORE is a source of free advising. And then you get into, working with folks that you need to pay for their services, like Aventi, and Deonna's rejoined us here. So Deonna, the question was, as a new startup, the small spending budget, are there any recommendations for affordable business plan coaching?
It really depends on what that coach is giving you. As you're asking, like, what should the budget be? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I think he's looking for he's recommendation for affordable business plan coaching, but I think that's a great point. What is a typical, if you're going to work with a coach or work with an advisor, like you guys, what should they be expecting to be able to allocate financially to that?
Well, I can say there's free advising with Small Business Development Center and other agencies. But if you want to work with a private consultant, you can look at business planning assistance from $1,500 and up. It really depends on like how much you want that consultant to work with you and work for you. Do you want them to conduct market research? Do you want them to go out and meet with funders with you? All of those things add to that whole business planning process.
So, we're going down a path we didn't really talk about in advance, but I think it's important when individuals are looking for coaches or looking for private, advisors to work with them. I mean, what do you think they should expect? I mean, I see a number of people, and you see a lot of this kind of on the web, they're on there and maybe they got this Instagram account and they're doing all this and they're showing these types of things and they're talking about, hey, I can take your business from, making $10 a month to making, $1 million at the end of the year and things of that nature. I'm saying they can't, but I mean,
right.
What should you really be looking for from somebody to help you out from a business perspective?
Well, I'm not going to knock anyone's style, but I can definitely tell you what we do is we take you through a process to truly understand your business, what you're trying to accomplish. We have the design process with the business model to understand the inner workings of the business. And then we go through the business planning process where we are conducting industry research, conducting market research. We need to validate this concept and idea before we write the whole thing. We've done that, and we can start dealing with our projections and our numbers and asking questions. The business planning process can be a lengthy process because we are taking as many things into consideration as possible. And so you want to make sure that your coach or your consultant is doing just that. They are asking a lot of questions. They are providing as many resources as they can for you. And I would say it should definitely take longer than a week to get.
Yeah,
if
no,
it takes 1 week, I mean, that's a red flag. I think that's just me though.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we both see, and Chad sees the same thing with the deck, folks showing up. I got to get funding like now.
Yes. Yes.
You know, I have the positive piece. I have a contract and I need to fund that, or, they've got problems and I've got to get funding, right? You've got to allow some time for all of this to happen, not just the business plan process, which certainly needs to be done properly. The funding process. You're not going to go to a bank,
right,
and get funding tomorrow,
right,
for your business. So, you got to allow some time. And Chaz put a great comment in the chat. His comment is that he finds that people don't know what they don't know. So again, working with somebody that can guide you is really important, because we've been through it. We have experience with this, and I've always tried to say the things that we do at the SBDC is we try to help people avoid mistakes.
Absolutely. Yes.
That first-time entrepreneurs are making, and because we've seen a lot of it. Now you're still going to make mistakes, and that's how you learn. But you don't have to make every mistake, because we can help you out in doing those types of things.
Let me add one other thing. So if you're going to the bank for funding, you should be looking for money when you don't need it. And I know that sounds backwards, but when you absolutely need it, one, you can't force anyone to hurry up and give you money. And then two, when you need it, your financial position may not be in a favorable place for a funder to be comfortable giving you money. So that's why business planning is important, because cash flow projections will show you when you will have shortfalls, and you will want to go to those funders way ahead of time and say, here's our financial position. Currently we're in good, but these 3 months or 4 months, we're going to be experiencing low cash flow because of seasonal fluctuations or renovations or whatever. And you need support to carry over those 4 months. And then you'll see that after these 4 months, we'll be back and steady and be in a good position. So those are really good times to go after funding prior to the time that you need it, because that says to the funder, you're planning, you're doing your research, you're understanding your business in a different way, and you're taking proactive measures versus reactive measures to access funding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to shift into one thing, but I want to ask your question. I want a question here because I know that you, in a previous life, had worked in funding and doing different things. So Lisa Timley asked a question, it says, starting a new venture, are you saying it's good to have funding in place before you need it?
Starting a new business, so it'll be different for a startup. Can you see me? Okay. It'll be different for a startup. For an existing business, that advice applies. For a startup, you need to demonstrate that your concept works. And that means that you'll need to perform the minimum viable product or service that you may have at the lowest cost for you to deliver that. It needs to demonstrate that it will work. So you may not need to get capital before you start
showcasing or demonstrating that there is a need or a demand for your product, or that this concept will work. After that, you'll be able to show and demonstrate that you can, one, repay the loan, because again, that's always an issue, to repaying your funding after you've demonstrated some success. And I have to apologize, but the power has gone off in our neighborhood, so I am on my phone and my phone keeps ringing.
Yeah,
so that's
you're
in the dark too.
Now I appreciate it. It's working, so that's good. We've got about 15 minutes, and I want to shift into a little conversation around business certifications and things. And what we may need to do is have you back and spend more time on the certification piece. But I want to jump into that a little bit. So you guys do a lot of work with business certifications and again, planning and prep for using that certification. So can you talk a little bit about, kind of what are business certifications? Why could it be important for you to have something like that?
Yes. So business certifications, these certifications, I'm speaking of our diversity certifications. They are certifications that designate a person by their social or economic disadvantage. So that could be women, veterans, minorities. There are small business certifications, small business designations. And there's also certifications based on where your company is or where you live. So sorry. These certifications, they help you get access to set asides or certain resources that are designated for these particular groups. So there are women resources, there are minority resources, there are veteran resources, so on and so forth. And the way that companies vet who should get these resources are through these certifications. Because if you got certified, it says that another agency or company has already vetted you, and they have already determined you are who you say you are, and they won't have to do that. The person providing the resource, they won't have to do that. You show them your certification, and it validates who you are. So with certifications, you can access contracts, you can access funding, you can access mentoring, or whatever they have set aside for that particular certification program.
Okay, so let me clarify, because somebody brought this up to me the other day, and I thought it was a really good example.
1 second.
That's fine.
I can hear you.
Okay. When we talk about certification, so if it's a minority certification or woman-owned business certification or something like that, what they're really doing is they're certifying, when you say they're certifying the owner, that the ownership is actually a minority business owner or a woman owner or a veteran or a service disabled veteran.
Yes.
Or a variety of other things, but they're actually looking at the owner, trying to determine, is the ownership actually a minority business, not just, we're going to throw somebody up in front of it and say, hey, you're the owner, but we're doing everything in the back to try to get extra business that maybe they don't deserve.
Right. And so the certifications, they're looking for majority ownership, as you have stated, 51% ownership or more. So if you have 4 people in your business, 2 women, 2 men, and you're going after a woman's certification, those 2 women have to represent 51% or more equity in the business to qualify as a women owner, even if there are men owners. If the woman owns 51% or more, then that is a woman-owned company. We're looking for a majority ownership, control, and management. So if the men in the company have control over the money and they manage most of the people and the operations, then there's some questions. And so we're looking for ownership, control, and management by that particular owner or that designated women veteran.
Yeah, that's great, because again, it's easy to say it's 51% owned, but it's the control and management piece that's really what they're looking for in this certification piece. And to your point, the reason that you have these certifications, so if you are going to go work with, a private sector company, or you're going to look at government contracting or something like that, and they're asking for this, the vendor or the company doesn't have to go through and do all that work, because all that work's been done and they can count on that to be accurate.
Right. And then, let me add this. The government is the largest consumer of goods and services. There are a lot of women and minorities and veterans and other disadvantaged population groups that do not go after government work. And so another reason for these certification programs is to ensure that the pool or procurement is equitable, and to give these groups opportunities to work with the government. Getting these contracts really do help with strengthening your company's value, increasing your revenue. It decreases your sales. Instead of tracing after one-time transactions, if you get a contract that lasts a year or 2 years, that gives you some stability. A little bit, you still got to deliver. But for the most part, there's many benefits to going after government contracting, and some business owners are not aware of those benefits. And that's where I come in.
Absolutely. And, I think sometimes people, I want to get certified. I want my business certified. Great. But they haven't really thought about, okay, well, what is the next step of that? And the next step of that is what you're talking about in terms of potentially government contracting, or, looking at, contracts maybe with private sector entities or something like that. Yeah. So, so if we talk about, so let's say we get certified, and then we want to pursue government contracts. And what are your thoughts? What kind of advice do you give people to kind of get them thinking about what that's going to look like?
I would encourage you to start networking. You need to do that anyway. So networking more with government agencies. These agencies have events and networking matchmakers and things like that. Be a part of those. Become more visible. Introduce yourself. Let them know that you exist in the world. Get on vendor registration lists. When you register as a vendor, then you'll start getting notifications of opportunities. And sometimes opportunities do not come in the form of a bid, but they come after a conversation. So it's important that you are visible, you're talking to people, you're connecting with them, and you are sharing with the world what you can offer them. And it's more than just the certification itself. You still have to be able to provide something that they need. So satisfying a customer's need never goes away, whether it's government contracting or non-government contracting. The same is true with corporate contracting. So I would say start networking, letting people know that you exist. You can even start adding your certification logos to your promotional material and things like that, letting them know that you are indeed a WBE, an MBE, a VBE, so on and so forth, and allow those conversations to start happening.
Absolutely. And, I have we're currently doing some work where we need some vendors, and we work for Columbus State. So if you're going to vendor with me, we're actually being a vendor with Columbus State. And, we were going to bring on a vendor, and we were, hadn't really thought about everything. And then it was one of those where we were able to, the college came back and said, are they certified? Are they an MBE or a WBE or whatever? And we said, well, actually, they are. And they're like, well, we don't need that to work with them, but it doesn't hurt anything, you know, and it helps. I mean, we should put that on there. Maybe we got something else down the road. Now we have them plugged in.
And then let me also say, companies and government agencies, they have goals. They have a certain number or percentage of revenue that they want to allocate each year to a certified business. Maybe they want to allocate 10% of their projects to MBEs. Well, in order to make that 10% happen, that business has to be certified and vetted, saying that they truly are MBE to satisfy that goal. And you may be a minority-owned business or a woman-owned business, but you didn't get certified, so they can't necessarily count you toward their goal. So you got to get certified. And I know it sounds like, man, why do I have to prove who I am? And it's not quite that way. It's more so saying, I am who I say I am, because there are other companies out there who are putting people in positions in their companies to make it look like they are somebody else so that they can get access to the resources. They recognize the value of these resources. So do the paperwork. I know it's lengthy. You can always get help with some agencies, or you can work with a private consultant and help you with your certifications, but get certified and be ready. Don't wait until there's an opportunity, because once an opportunity comes, it's too late to get certified. That process is lengthy.
Yeah. What do you think the average amount of time it takes from, let's say they're all prepped, beginning to end of the certification process?
So we have measured business owners taking about 20 to 40 hours to complete their application. That's because they have to make sure all of their documents are official, they're executed. If you don't have financials, then you have to create financials, so on and so forth. And then on the agency, certifying agency side, it takes about 60 to 90 days to review your application, and maybe even longer. So what we noticed during the pandemic is that certification applications were taking a lot longer. The workers were not in the buildings to review. They were doing everything at home, so that prolonged the process. So it could be 90 days before you get approved, or it could be 6 months before you get approved. It depends on the certifying agency.
Right. And for those that are new businesses, and I think it varies by certification, but you know, you can't just, okay, I'm going to go get my business structure, get my LLC, and I want to get certified tomorrow. I mean, there tends to be there's a requirement that they operate for a certain amount of time. And I think it varies by certification.
Yep. Minimum 6 months. Some you don't have to wait, but there's some that are 6 months. You got to wait maybe a year. But even no matter how long you have to wait, I encourage newer businesses to get certified as soon as they can. And the reason being is because the longer you are in business, it takes there's more paperwork, because there's more paperwork to support everything that you've accomplished thus far. So the earlier you are in business, that's a great opportunity to dodge a lot more paperwork later and get certified as soon as you can, as soon as you're eligible.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. So what I want to do is I want to kind of wrap it up. This has been great. And I do want to, you know, let's find another time where we can spend more time talking about certifications and things of that nature. I do have one certification question here.
Okay.
Timothy's asking, you know, are you able to be certified for more than one business?
Yes. Yeah. If you own multiple businesses, you want to get certified. You want each business to be certified. You can get certified.
Okay. So the last question, this is the last question I ask every time we do this. Well, I mean, before I ask the question, where do they find you and Aventi? Where's the best place for them to go?
Best place to find me is aventienterprises.com. That's Aventi enterprises.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Deonna Barnet, or you can call at 614-528-4138.
Okay, great. So the last question is, what is one thing that you would recommend the folks on here, the folks watching this on YouTube, do between now, what time is it? 12:30
Okay.
and midnight tonight that could help their business.
Set some goals. What is it that you want to accomplish in the next 30 days, 60 days, or next year? What is that? Figure that out and write them down and start working on your action plans.
Sounds great. Great advice. Deonna Barnet, and I really appreciate you being part of this today. This was great information. I can't wait to bring you back to continue this conversation. And
Great.
also, I want to thank Chaz and the Dublin Entrepreneurial Center for supporting the program, supporting the SBDC. And it's a great place. You can find them at deckindublin.com. And I would highly encourage you to take a look at that. And again, thanks to Bruce and everyone at the Small Business Development Center. We are here to support you and help you with your businesses and help you grow your businesses. So thank you very much, and hope you all have a great day. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.